They're going to address the monetization of disinformation.
Right. They're going to address the monetization. And I'm afraid I have to bring this up. This emerged in my world, at least, very shortly before today's podcast. But I have now sourced the the policy change that will go into effect November 3rd at PayPal.
Uh-oh. What?
What PayPal is going to do is they are going to, on a per instance basis, a per violation basis, they are going to avail themselves of the right to take $2,500 out of your PayPal account if you, and then you can imagine all of the things that you're not allowed to do, including, say, things that support the oppression based on gender identity, etc. Oh, and misinformation. So imagine... Yeah, go ahead.
That's kind of all I got. PayPal isn't a platform that people put their voices onto. PayPal is a payment platform. So, do you remember when Sargon of Akkad got deplatformed by Patreon? This would have been like end of 2018, maybe?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
On the basis of things.
On the basis of things he said in like a private video on YouTube that had nothing to do with Patreon.
Absolutely.
I think I got that right.
Yep.
Okay, so, and it doesn't matter what he was saying. Doesn't matter. I don't even remember at this point, right? Doesn't matter. Patreon shut down his Patreon account because he said something over there.
Yep.
That they didn't like. PayPal isn't actually even a media company. So any time you say anything in your world that they decide they don't like, they could fine you $2,500?
Well, I tried to suss this out because I agree it's conspicuous that it isn't even like Patreon, where you could say something on Patreon or on some thing that you were funding through Patreon,
right,
where Patreon could convince itself that it had a right to do such a thing. Mm-hmm. PayPal, I think, does not even have a place. There's not a community that they could be discussing. So it must be your larger social media life that they are intending to police by, and, of course, as is always the case in these overreaches, authoritarian overreaches by these platforms, what is written is ambiguous. And it would be one thing if there were a mechanism to adjudicate whether you had, in fact, or had not, in fact, violated their rule, and whether, in fact, their rule was clear enough to even follow it if that's what you intended to do, right? There is no venue. And so what that effectively...
Well, if you weren't doing anything wrong, I'm sure you wouldn't have gotten fined.
Well, here's the problem, is that all of these policies pretend to be indifferent to who you are, and they are exactly the opposite.
Right.
This policy will be wielded against people with certain beliefs, and it will not be wielded against people with other beliefs. And in this case, it has financial teeth, as Helen...
That's huge.
So it was Ian Michael Chong... Miles Chong, who alerted us to this on Twitter today, and I only briefly looked at what he had pointed to, and then Helen Dale responded to him and asked, does that mean that if there's nothing in your PayPal account that they could go to your bank accounts which are connected? Now, I honestly think that is not spelled out in this document. It's not clear one way or the other. But we even have to worry about interacting with PayPal even beyond what might be in our PayPal accounts, because they do have these agreements that we've signed up for to link our accounts to other accounts that we might have. And so if if in a podcast that PayPal decides it has the right to police, you've said 11 things that it sees as violations, how much of your wealth are they allowed to drain? And where do you get to challenge this? It's some company that you've clicked OK on its terms of service. So this is absolutely a declaration of war, right? And I would also point out that if the world worked anything like it is supposed to work, PayPal would be bending over backwards to be indifferent to what the people who use its service say or think, right? It is a for-profit corporation. Its interests involve getting as many people to use its service as much as possible, right? That's what's in the interest of its shareholders, not becoming the nanny corporation that's going to go and search what you say to figure out if you're violating its terms of service, right? That is an aggressive...
That's a very interesting... That's a sort of an interesting turnaround, because part of why we find ourselves in the predicament we find ourselves in society-wide is that people mistake, oh, it's a pharmaceutical company, it must be interested in your health. They mistake like the type of organization it is for actually what its fiscal responsibility is. And no, their fiscal responsibility is actually to make more money for their shareholders. And you are arguing that in like a reversal here, that PayPal is actually failing in its fiscal responsibility if it is going to start going after some considerable fraction of its normal audience
and
customer base.
I honestly don't know what to make of this, but we see business after business cannibalizing its core competency over political ideology.
Yeah.
It is bizarre as hell, right? Twitter, even if Twitter has deeply held beliefs, Twitter as a business should be absolutely interested in getting everybody to use the service independent of what it is they're trying to say. You wouldn't expect a company that makes paper to suddenly start trying to nanny who can buy it to write what on it. You would imagine that company would be exactly the opposite, that they would be trying to ignore all of the despicable things that are being written on the paper that they produce so they can sell more of it, right? Why are these businesses going after their core competencies? Why are they throwing off users who actually represent revenue, right? Why is this happening across multiple industries now?
Yeah.
Right? It's a genuine mystery. And it could have lots of different answers. It could be that these things have been captured from the inside, and the terror of being torn apart by these political ideologies that have control over the levers internal to these corporations is causing them to cannibalize their audience, in fear, the same way universities have upended their truth-seeking mission out of fear of, a motivated mob. That's possible. It's also possible it's something else.